What's up, my precious little pack, and welcome back to VEGA Conflict. So, the mobilization's coming to a close in just under 3 hours. So far, what has been done? Well, not much. I've cycled through targets. I haven't hit the brigade fleets, nor the regiment fleets yet, but I started hitting the bases, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I've been doing. Takes 2 attacks, but I can get the boxes that I'm aiming for a little bit more easily than I can get the Mark III boxes. Yeah, that's what I was getting for the 80s. So let's go have some fun in an 80 base with just 3 ships out of my fleet, with the sole objective of simply playing and earning a few points. Now, it does take 2 attacks to attack the base that I'm doing, because I don't have a full destroyer fleet nor a full cruiser escort for it. Instead, I have 1 bastion and my 2 liberators. Now, not a lot of you know of the liberators. The build for them, they're Mark IV. These are the second ships that are the most dangerous out of my secondary fleet. The most dangerous being the Pegasus, being able to simply turn mostly sideways and just strafe away from its opponent and outrange battleships. Now, in destroyer fights, it can't outrange them. That's just not how it works. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my time. I'm going to show you all what I've been doing. And remember, I hit an 80 in the first day and got around 4.5 hours or 5 hours. I only managed to ever get that down to about 4 hours of repair time, hitting that the 80. Now hitting this 80, I can actually take around 1 hour of repair time. And I declare that much more acceptable, especially because the prize boxes are Mark V boxes, and as I already know, I don't necessarily need Mark IIs anymore. I need Mark IIIs and Mark IV boxes. Now, I have a few parts left over from previous events, so I don't have to collect as many boxes. And remember, the boxes they get from targets typically only drop 4 pieces of the required pattern. So let's say you need 20, that means you need to get 5 boxes, roughly. But let's go ahead and let's jump right into this. And let's more or less just take it slow and enjoy a fight. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it slow like I did the first time. Well, you guys didn't get to see that. But what I did was I kept my cruiser in just a firing arc of just 1 set of the base targets, the turrets. So I only had to deal with just 1 set of them. And I made sure my destroyers would approach from a different direction, so I could get the most optimal angle for them to be able to shoot the targets. And no, this isn't a replay. You're not watching a video that I'm just narrating over of a fleet that I did earlier. This is actually a live attack for me, so this is my second time going through this. But it's just a matter of getting into position, setting up the attack, and then more or less commencing with the attack. Now, a lot of you may have just noticed that my destroyers strafe very quickly. That's because I actually have them set up for the fleet that they support. They're not meant to actually do bases. I actually have them as support vessels. And under their current fitting, they're actually not supposed to be able to do bases. They're literally meant to support another fleet. They're supposed to escort a fleet in and literally just do damage. That's it. Their sole need is just to be able to strafe. They can turn sideways and they can help get themselves up to speed a little bit more quickly when they're turning. That's about the only advantage of them in their current fitting. And now some of you may have been wondering why I just took that out for. It's actually so I can do this. This fleet doesn't take that long to repair when the fight's done, because as I said, it only takes an hour, and it's all damage that's primarily focused on that single bastion. And it doesn't have a shield fitting for this base. It should have projectile, because the primary damage type I'm taking for this first little bit of this fight is all projectile damage. But this ship does not have projectile shielding. It has projectile resistance, and it's got quite a bit of it.
Roger that. Affirmative. On my way. Let's move. Orders received. That's affirmative.
Okay. Leave all of you are set up. I just need to get you into place.
Copy that. Right away.
Okay. You start your approach. You start your approach. The destroyers took a little bit of a beating there, but nothing they can't handle. It helps them shooting the shield to get it out of the way and not just jumping back and forth. Okay.
On my way. I hear you. Roger that.
For the initial part of the attack, what I do is I clear out the first initial area and I take out these two pillars so I have access to this side or this side so I can attack whichever one I want in the next, like, setup phase. That clears out that next area. just have to let them take that, and then I can move up to this next location. Let's see here. Misclick almost cost me a little bit of extra repair time that I wouldn't have wanted. Alright, let's move that fleet up. This is a roughly 15-minute attack because the first one is mostly moving around, and the second attack during the initial setup, it's literally just rushing in to get into place. There's no real skill behind that, it's just trying to move up into position. But just get right back into commanding the fleet. Go. And one thing you do not want to do is move the carrier within range, because right now what it's doing is it's just providing the agility buff. My carrier is, at least. And the goal is to literally not engage the bridge in the first attack. You want to attack it in the second attack. And you don't want your squadrons attacking any of these just yet, because if they start to attack anything that you literally can't stop, or you take unnecessary damage just because of them, there's very little you can do because of the travel range with the projectile weapons. And what I'm doing now is, like I said, I'm opening up this area so I can have access to these two, but I'm going to attack from this side because it's how I've been setting it up and attacking so far. Just like that, I can back off, and I think I'll actually try and get started with the base attack. I'll give it a good few hits before I run out of time here.
Right away. Orders received.
Nah, don't have time. Let's just let the timer run out.
That's affirmative. On our way.
Alright. Let's go back in.
Taking fire.
And same setup as before. Destroyers on the 1 key, cruiser on the 2 key, rest of the fleet on the 3 key. Now for any of you mobile users, you actually don't have the ability to bind the hotkeys like that. You'll have to drag and drop. And what that means is you simply click on the portrait of one of the ships at the bottom and drag and drop. Literally like this. And you can move them in and out of the fleet like that. You can also reposition them. But let's go ahead and let's get advancing down here into the side I opened up that I want to attack from. I want the cruiser to be there. I want the destroyers roughly right here. Agility support right in the back, as always.
Engines online.
Okay, now just wait for them to close in. This is the part that I noticed that kept taking the longest out of everything, is this secondary approach, because it just felt and feels, even right now, like it takes so much longer because you have to cover the same distance again. But this is all letting the bastion that I have soak up damage, and again, it does not have projectile shields. I didn't have the deflectors before this because this was their first event of having the deflector shields. So I'm most likely going to build a bastion with each set of shields specifically for targets that specialize in that damage type. So for the bases, I'll have a single bastion leading a group of my liberators because I currently have them. And I still have to deal with the fitting and mark upgrades for my Inquisitor. But I wanted to get Mark IV for my other bastion, so a few boxes here and there to help me along the way. Okay. And this is the only one I need to wait to get into place because I need the movement speed buff just for the cruiser. The destroyers, not so much. And again, you don't want to have the carrier within range of anything that can launch squadrons onto because you don't want to be taking unnecessary damage from additional targets that are outside your weapons range that are firing at your squadrons, passing through them, and potentially hitting your ships. Primary goal here is simply just to do damage. Alright. Let's get this party started. Don't want to get in range of those back turrets yet. And this would actually go faster if you actually have a full destroyer group, but as I know, I don't have a full destroyer group just because they're my secondary fleet. They produce just to farm specific targets. Now I'm just going to break one of the back shields open so that way I can kind of open it up so I can get back there with the bastion and stuff like that. Okay. I took a little bit more damage, so possibly 1 hour and 30 minutes, but still it's under 2 hours and I can't complain because it's still fairly good and easy points. So I earn around 50,000 for that. Then I get the boxes and stuff like that, and let's wait to see what the repair time is going to be on the ship. But let's take a quick look at the prizes. And I did make sure I picked up the level 3 shield for my next set of bastions when I produce the basing bastion just for that. Because it will help reduce that overall damage to the shield. But something I was trying to think over. It reduces the damage and provides defense. So in turn, the amount of damage that goes through the shield, is it also reduced by the amount of damage blocked by the shield? So 75%, and since it would be that, only 25% would pass through. Well, not quite pass through because you have 90% defense, only 10% passes through. So I mean 25% of any projectile damage that would pass through. I'll have to actually do some testing to actually find out if it actually does that, but that was more or less how I've been playing the event lately. I got the other stuff off of fighting nothing but the vanguards before I realized how easy the bases were, especially for the repair time. I wish I had been doing it all along. But now I'm doing my favorite thing of just collecting resources, because I'm not after anything else. Because when it comes to the shielding, I'm mostly going to be putting either level 3 or level 1 on them. And the only one that's going to be getting the deflector shields is going to be, let's see, a few of the Inquisitors when they're fully mark upgraded, but that's a long times away. And the Bastions, I can produce anytime I want, and I actually have one being built right now, a blank hull. I just have to more or less mark upgrade it afterwards.
We're on one.
But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the Bastion from the fleet just to check the individual repair times, because the other ships did get hit quite a bit. I did see that. 5 minutes, that's no problem, go like that. And for repair time on them, and 1 hour 18 minutes, not bad. That is most definitely better than what I was doing before. For the repair time of 4 hours for 100,000 points, I could get 100,000 points and 2 hours of repair time by doing it this way. And the Bastion can take up to 5 hours of punishment before it breaks. But that's going to be it for this episode, for this video, everybody. Actually, no, let's not end it yet. Let's do my full thoughts on the mobilization this time around. The targets, unless you're using top tier tech, you're not using light fittings like what I do, and light fittings are referring to my secondary ships, which are these guys. Light fittings, literally, they're lightly armored, lightly shielded, but their focus is mainly on a low production time, so I can have multiple out per month. The event would be much more stable if you had like a mid fitting, so you had a little bit more armor, level 2 weaponry across the board, a little bit heavier shielding, things like that. But it is mostly focused on top tier tech because you can't reduce the overall bounce damage unless you use resistors, which most of the high tier ships can use too. But in the case of the Bastion and all the others, they have access to technology that the others don't, so they're just more efficient at doing the job. Overall, let's say, hit or miss for the mobilization? Miss. The overall difficulty of the high-level fleets in comparison to their base counterparts is just, it's a bit of a put-off, kind of, because the rewards they give, they are primarily for the base, for the fleet targets, but the amount of damage that I take from a vanguard to get the energy resistance when I should have been hitting the brigades was a little bit high in my eyes. And that was another one. I remember hitting brigades a lot a while back, and they were a lot more easy to do. I haven't actually hit any during this event, so I'm not going to say anything on how easy they are to do. But hit or miss, I say somewhere in between. And a miss partially as well because of, well, the fleets, as I said. Let's just give it an overall miss. Hit or miss, it gets a miss just because of the fleets. The bases, they're doable, as you can see, with just a single ship that's built to resist projectile damage and alien damage or plasma damage in the case of certain higher level base targets. And 2 destroyers, and you can do it in 2 attacks for around 50,000 intel. Well, actually no, it's actually more around 85,000 intel because I started off with around 25,000. No, I had it right, around 50,000. 60,000, 500, 5,000. Around that general area. But what did all of you think of this mobilization? Were the fleets just too difficult because they're just meant for the higher tier tech, which not everybody has, because I've been talking with a lot of people and they just don't have the high tier tech and they're still trying to catch up. And the longer it takes for them to catch up, the further they get behind because they have to go through the base upgrade hurdles. And I literally rushed to get all of mine done, and now I can produce the ships, but I don't have the fleet bay to fully fit them. The largest amount of ships that I can fit from the current tier is 3 bastions and my carrier. That's it. But share your thoughts on the event. Let's try and get some feedback going. But that's about it, everybody. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.